Hey, it's Julianna. Welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I opened up with playing some excerpts from pieces that delve into the extended altissimo range of the clarinet. So I'm talking about G sharp / A flat 6 to C7. For the purposes of this video, I'll be using the term double high interchangeably for G sharp, A flat 6, etc., all the way up to double high C. But just understand that I'm talking about the grand staff octave designation for G sharp / A flat 6 through C7. If you're new to pitch notation and octave naming / designation, I'll leave some links in the description box that explain that in more detail. Here's the structure for this video so you can jump to the parts that interest you. We'll start with fingerings and then move to some helpful tips on how to get these double high altissimo register notes to speak and respond. So don't forget to watch part 1 to this video, I'll put it right here, and that walks you through how to play the high notes on clarinet from altissimo C to altissimo G. I've also created a free PDF to go along with this video that has all of these fingerings plus some alternate fingerings for G sharp 6 all the way up to C7. I'll leave a link to this PDF in the pinned comment at the top of this video as well as in the description box. I also want to mention this book called New Directions for Clarinet by Philip Rayfeld. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, but it has a lot more fingerings in here for the extended range of the clarinet. Also has a lot of tips for extended techniques on clarinet like multiphonics and things like that. So if that's something that interests you, I'll leave a link to this book in the description box. When I did a preliminary search, it's pretty expensive, but hopefully you can find maybe a seller that was selling it at a reasonable price. I think it might be out of print. First, I want to mention that the notes / fingerings you're about to learn aren't really in the standard range for B-flat clarinet. However, there are composers that will still write in this extended range. As someone who has played in a professional concert band for a lot of years, the clarinet section would just moan when composers would write for a section of clarinetists to play in unison above an altissimo F. A lot of times, just for tuning purposes, we would cut down to just one player on that part, or just let the E-flat clarinet player play that line, because nobody really wants to hear 3 to 4 clarinetists playing altissimo G6s in unison for a long length of time, like especially if you're trying to tune with the flutes and piccolo, right? Whether you're a beginner or looking to polish your skills, this tutorial is for you. But before we dive in, make sure that you hit the subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you never miss out on what's coming up with these clarinet tutorials and tips. All right, let's get started. Get ready to elevate your clarinet playing to new heights. Playing high notes on clarinet, especially in the G sharp 6 to C7 range, requires practice and control and proper technique. So here are some tips that will help you play high notes on the clarinet. Number 1 is embouchure control. So maintain a firm and focused embouchure. This is crucial for controlling the airstream and producing a clear, focused sound on the high notes. And also experiment with the angle and the pressure of your lower lip against the reed. A higher lip position can sometimes help with higher notes, but just play around. So if you're going to play like a high, I'll try maybe high A. So You see, when I moved the bell into my body, I had a little bit more clarity to that note. So you may just want to, like, as you're playing the note, try, changing the angle of where your mouthpiece comes in to your embouchure or into your mouth behind your teeth. Just, play around with that. See what feels comfortable to you and what produces the high note. Try not to tighten up too much when you're trying to play these high notes. So if you're tightening up your jaw muscles, that can be counterproductive to what you're trying to do. You still need a firm embouchure, and you also need a little bit of resistance for, fighting against that resistance will help, get the high notes to speak, but you don't want to tighten up so much where you're squeezing off the reed from vibrating. With your air support, you'll find that you need quicker, faster air. I was watching a video by Michelle Anderson, and she was talking about the concept of when you're using like a hose or like a pressure washer, the more you can kind of tighten up the stream of water going through the nozzle. That's sort of the same idea. So if you were just blowing like, and then you tighten that nozzle to have like a very direct stream of water, that's sort of the same thing we're doing here with the high notes. So when you're not playing with enough air support, the notes barely speak. But when I turn on faster air, the note pops right up. So you need to sort of find the right air pressure for you on those high notes. So next would be finger technique. I think I spoke about this in my last video about Altissimo notes, but you have to be really comfortable with the fingerings first before you can try to, put them in context in, whatever piece you're playing. So I recommend when you're learning these notes, like play in front of a mirror so that you can see what your fingers are doing, because sometimes your finger will slip off of one of the tone holes, or you're opening up a key on the side that you're not supposed to. So be really aware of what you're doing as you're learning these fingerings. My next tip would be voicing. So adjust your voicing to help with the higher register. Voicing refers to the position of your tongue in the oral cavity. So experiment with different tongue positions to find what works best for you. I find that I really need to focus on the vowel sound E, and also when I'm tonguing those higher notes like B6 and C7, I really have to make sure the back of my tongue is high, and sort of the swell or the dip in my tongue is even more exaggerated so that I can get those high notes to speak. Because if I don't do that, I kind of get sort of this undertone, like they don't even speak. But when I really focus on creating the correct tongue position for my voicing, they seem to pop out a little bit better. Next would be try to practice your scales and arpeggios in that third octave altissimo range. So work on scales and arpeggios that include the high range of the clarinet. This helps build familiarity with the fingerings and improves overall technique. So you may want to start with like A major. You can go. And then also my next tip would be to use a tuner. So I could tell that G sharp was like really out. So I would use a tuner as you're learning these scales along with the fingerings, so you know what your pitch tendency is on your instrument. Next, I would recommend, of course, starting slow and also taking breaks. So begin by playing the high notes slowly and gradually increase the speed as you gain control. Rushing can lead to a loss of control and accuracy on those notes. And also take breaks, because playing in the upper register can be physically demanding, and you'll also feel the tendency to want to bite. So taking breaks to avoid fatigue and maintain a relaxed feeling and embouchure as you go up there. So I would say the biggest tip is don't bite. Try and control your embouchure by keeping your corners in, like ooh. Like the more that you build the small muscles right here, the better, because we want to avoid the biting. That's just one of the common things you'll probably experience because you're losing control up there, so you're just biting off the reed. I would say that's what I see in myself and in my students all the time. So try and build up these small muscles right here, and then of course right here, build up these facial muscles so that it's not so taxing as you go up there. But start slow. You know, it's not a race, it's a marathon, right? And next, if you have a teacher, great, they can really help you. But if you don't have a teacher, you know, that's okay. I think what's most important is to experiment. So each player is unique. Don't be afraid to experiment with different approaches to find what works best for you. And listen to recordings, you know, of skilled clarinetists, you know, for inspiration and just guidance on what kind of tone quality you want up there. The last step I wanted to talk about is your reed strength and reed cut that you're using. So I normally play the Van Doren traditional box, strength 3.5, but I noticed for the extended range of the clarinet that it just wasn't speaking. So I switched up to the Van Doren V12 3.5s. I actually play interchangeably these two models of reeds, but anyway, the V12, actually the cut of the reed is a little different than the traditional cut. So the shoulders of the reed are a little bit thicker than the traditional cut, but the tip is pretty similar to the traditional cut. So you kind of get the best of both worlds, where you get sort of like the meat that's going to help you get those high notes to speak, but you still have the flexibility of the tip of the reed not being as thick as some other models. So you may want to experiment with different models of reeds if your current reed isn't working for you, especially if you're playing around in the extended range of the clarinet. Developing a strong and controlled high register takes time and consistent practice, so be patient and persistent, and you'll gradually improve your ability to play high notes on clarinet. If you have any questions or want to share your progress, feel free to drop a comment down below. I hope this video was helpful, and I'll see you next time. Bye.